Hey yo, hey, I just seen this video laying in bed, right? So I was like, bro, I gotta make a video. This Jones say the most dangerous Asian Crips, how they took over the DMV and ran up millions. Bruh, we don't have no Crips in the DMV, bro. I think a lot of people when they hear about DMV, y'all loop the whole DC, Maryland, and Virginia. That's not the DMV. The DMV is the metropolitan area. Everywhere a train go, if a train can go there or a bus can go there, that's the DMV. The metropolitan bus. You getting on what they call it in y'all area? I don't know. Metro. We call it Metro here. Um, Transit. I don't. Whatever y'all call it in y'all city, bro. If a train can't take you there, that's not the DMV. It's not, bro. You got DC. You got Maryland. When we say Maryland, we say PG and Moco. That's considered the Maryland parts for the DMV. And Virginia, you got Alexandria, Arlington. Uh, I wouldn't even say Woodbridge, even though Woodbridge is damn near close. I wouldn't even say Woodbridge. If a bus can't get you there, or a train like a train stop don't get you there, I ain't talking about the Greyhound. I'm not talking about the Greyhound. Uh, one of them type of trains. I'm talking about the Metro train. If it can't take you there, it's not the DMV, bruh. So that's why when you hear people from Baltimore, Baltimore has Crips, but that's not the same as PG and Moco. It's not the same area. Like, and I fuck with Baltimore. I fuck with Baltimore heavy, but I'm just saying, like, if y'all want to know what the DMV is, bruh. So let's gonna get to the video because I just found that funny.
Welcome back to another episode of Swamp.
And what area? Crips, Asians, bruh. You don't see no Asian people here, bruh. Like no cap, like you don't see no Asian people here, bruh. You're not gonna see no Asian people here. Like on gang time, you're not gonna ever see that, bruh.
Stories. For this video, we cover an unexpected story. A group of wild suburban teenagers who got together and ended up creating one of the wildest crews in the DMV. But before we get into it, make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you're new. You can also follow the Instagram
I wonder
page
what the
as well.
comments say.
So let's get into it. Welcome to the DMV. And
look, bro, like just look at the comments, bro. This nigga say I'm from Baltimore, been in the DMV area plenty of times. Never heard of Asian boys in Maryland, DC, let alone the East Coast, bro. Like, bruh, look, I'm reading the comments, bro. Read the comments, bro. I'm from PG County, Maryland. I didn't watch this whole video. It's no Asian Crips here, bro. They don't like. I'm from DC, bro. Come on, bruh. Where they running in the DMV? They not running Northwest, Uptown. They not running Northeast. They not running Southwest. They not running Southeast. Where they running, bruh? And they not running PG. They not even running Baltimore. Like, they not running Richmond, Virginia. Like, what? Come on, bruh. Like, no cap, bruh.
Not the Department of Motor Vehicles, but the area where DC, Virginia, and Maryland intersect. For the
Alright, let's go to this map right here.
Of motor vehicles, but the area.
So this right here is what I'm talking about. This is what I say. The DMV, Washington. You got Alexandria. You got Arlington. That's Virginia. Springfield would not be considered. It is. No, it is. It is because a train can get you there. But far as like landscapes, like. When we say DMV, bro, we talk about DC, Arlington, and Alexandria. That's the Virginia side. We not talking about Tyson's, because Tyson's drive far as shit. McLean drive far as shit. Fairfax, bruh. Don't nobody go to Fairfax. Like, they say they got I ain't no jailhouse nigga, but they say Fairfax County, bro. They say they got one of the worst jail systems, bro. So niggas don't want to even be caught out there, bro. So where it says Hyattsville, that's Maryland. College Park, that's Maryland. Hey son, I'm gonna call you right back, okay? I don't know what you But anything Bowie, that's the DMV too, but that's job like far as shit. Capitol Heights, that's the DMV. Upper Marlboro, that's the DMV. Clinton, that's the DMV. All this other shit, Laurel. That's see now you talking about that's the DMV, but that's don't job out the way. Rockville, that's the DMV. Potomac, that's the DMV. Like I said, College Park, Beltsville. Don't nobody go to Beltsville. Don't nobody go to Beltsville, bro. All that shit on the like from Law, you got Law, Bowie, Upper Marlboro, Clinton. All that right there is the DMV. Everything else on that other side ain't the DMV, bro. And like I said, from McLean, Tyson's, Fairfax, Springfield, Burke, everything else on the other side, bro, not the DMV, bro. Like no cap, bro. Manassas, far shit, bro. I just recently had to go to Manassas, like last month for videos, for a studio. I went to a studio out there, bro. Bro, it took me 2 hours to get back, bro. No cap, bro. Driving there, it took me like an hour and 40 minutes, bro. That's not the DMV, bro. If no train can take you there, bro, it's not the DMV, bro.
Area where DC, Virginia, and Maryland intersect. For those who are unfamiliar, the DMV is one of the wealthiest regions in all of America. In fact, prior to the Silicon Valley tech boom, it had the highest per capita income in the United States. But despite all of this wealth, the city of Washington, D.C. has been one of the most dangerous cities in the country for the last 20 years. On top of this, much of the city is run down, abandoned, and filled with street.
Just look at these.
The city of Washington, D.C. has been one.
Bro, look at what you see here, bro.
Dangerous cities in the country for the last 20
on the side over here,
years.
black people,
on
bro.
top of
black
this,
people,
much
bro.
of the city is run down, abandoned, and filled
this video is just wrong
with street activities. However, this is not where the story takes place, not even remotely the same world. In fact, the story takes place in one of the richest and safest suburbs in the whole United States. Across the river from DC, you have Fairfax County, Virginia.
Bruh, this nigga talking about that's not the DMV, bro. I'm giving this whole breakdown and shit like that, bro. That shit is not the DMV, bro. Nobody going to Fairfax, bro. Nobody in DC is going to nobody. I would say nobody from DC or Maryland is going to would likely go to Virginia. Why? Because it's a Commonwealth state. That's probably one of the main reasons why people not going there, because it's a Commonwealth state. Do your history on Commonwealth, like do your history on. They got some of the most grimiest police, state troopers that are really backdoor you. Come on, man. I ain't even gotta say nothing. So let's get into the video.
A suburban and wealthy area known for great schools. The median income of $133,000 is higher than the Bay Area's prestigious Marin County. Not only do they make more money here, but the average home sells for just $590,000. Because of this, families can afford to buy a massive house, a fancy car, and provide an amazing life. Not to mention that residents can feel safe with a hum.
This what I'm
car
talking
and
about.
provide an amazing life. Not to
these niggas right here. When I say Fairfax has one of the worst, like niggas don't want to get caught there, bro. Like I hear stories or like from people, they say, bro, like my time in Fairfax was just like terrible. Like Fairfax jail, bro, terrible. Like they hate it. But yeah, these niggas right here, they not gonna play with you.
Mention that residents can feel safe with a homicide rate of just 1 per 100,000 for a population of over
real redneck. real redneck, like real talk, like real redneck. Like they not anything on that Virginia. They not playing, bro. You better do the speed limit. You better. I'm telling you, you better do the speed. These niggas is not playing with you, bro. And you know the crazy part, bro. See, I'm from DC. Like they give you a ticket in DC, and you can pay it online. These niggas real live want you to come into court. Like you get a ticket, you gotta go to court. Like real, you gotta. You like, bro, it's a speed ticket, bro. Just give me a speed ticket. I pay it online, bro, and go about my day. No, these niggas want you to go in court. Man, I'm telling you, bro.
Over a million, this is the lowest rate ever recorded.
That's all in Virginia. Anywhere in Virginia, bro. Anywhere in Virginia, bro. Anytime you get a ticket, bro, a ticket speeding, bro, you gotta go to court.
In American history. Well, despite all of these great attributes, Fairfax County is still not a perfect place. In fact, since the mid-1990s, it's been home to some wild street organizations. It all began in 1995 when California's infamous Tiny Rascals came to the area. Just like Long Beach where TRG originated, Fairfax County was one of the areas to accept many Cambodian and Vietnamese refugees. So naturally, many of the TRG members in Long Beach had family living in Northern Virginia. Because the environments were so drastically different, the Cambodian
Long Beach, bro. California is all the way on the other side of the United States. How could something all the way on the United States, if it originated over there in California, right? Bro, you know how far Virginia is, bro? Virginia ain't no motherfucking, oh, we just gonna drive to Virginia, bro. You know bruh. That's like a motherfucking 4-day road trip, bruh. Fly, I mean, you got a bag to fly, but niggas... No, niggas is weird, bro.
Cambodians in Long Beach were forced to live a different life. They had to watch their backs and protect themselves at all times, which the Virginia families just simply didn't have to do. However, once the Tiny Rascals got more involved with the money side of the streets, naturally their family in Virginia wanted to be a part of this too. So throughout the 1990s, when the families would visit each other, the LA street culture spread to the streets of Virginia. By 1998, TRG had a full-blown set operating in Fairfax, Virginia. And not too long after this, another group of teenagers followed in their footsteps. In 1999, a crew of Vietnamese teenagers formed the Asian Dragon family, also known as ADF. In many historical cases, their formation would have started a beef, but thankfully this was not the case. In fact, ADF and TRG locked in right away and became each other's closest ally. Together, their goal was to get money and defend each other when need be. And other than a handful of cases, both sections were relatively peaceful, thus why Fairfax had such a low crime rate. As a result, the police never looked into their operations and they remained under the radar. But then everything changed around 2011 when three wild young men got together and started their own crew. First was Richard Pack, also known as Teddy. Teddy was a local born and raised and had been part of a crew called the Korean Dragon Crew. Next would be Joseph Landborn, also known as Trigga, a wild young teenager from the Fairfax area. And finally you have Tony Lee, a Southern California native who had moved to Virginia in the recent months. Tony was an associate of the infamous Long Beach.
Hey, I was just about to, whenever you got a nigga from California, of course he gonna say, bruh, I'm gonna go over here and start my own shit. And what happened? He came from California and said, man, it's pretty nice over here. Let me find some niggas I can run the top over. And that's what he did. I'm gonna start my own shit. He probably the ringleader. I'm gonna start my own shit. Fuck y'all niggas. Hey, y'all with me.
Asian boys, the bitter rivals of TRG. The three men named themselves the Reckless Tigers, and their goal was to take over the DMV market and instill fear in
You can't keep saying DMV, bruh. It's like Fairfax. They was taking over Fairfax, bruh. Don't say the DMV, bruh.
anyone who got in their way. Well, just like his Long Beach associates, Tony Lee was aggressive and led the Tigers to their first bag on September 3rd, 2012. On this day, Tony Lee met up with an ADF member to complete an $11,000 deal. Tony went to their house, handed over the bag, and ADF handed him a duffel bag full of product. They then shook hands and Tony went home. There, he opened the bag and realized that everything was grass clippings. The ADF members thought that he was some
Roll out, backdoored him. I'm talking about, hey, niggas say the product right here. You go step off and nigga realize don't have nothing there.
square
That's
who they
crazy.
could finesse. Little did they know, Tony Lee was a Long Beach veteran who nobody should mess with. They made a massive mistake by crossing him and allowing him to know where they live. From this moment,
And then you, what Dezzy say? Never chop where you lay your head at. Come on, bruh. Like, what the fuck type of retarded shit you niggas on, bro? You gonna bring a nigga right to your doorstep? You gonna do deals right at your doorstep? Come on, bro. That's what I'm saying, bro. That's how you know niggas don't really have street mentalities. Like,
Tony made it his mission to send a message to ADF to show them what the Reckless Tigers are all about. So later that night at 10 p.m., Tony would return to the same house on Victoria Road. He and an associate would get out of the car, spray paint, and vandalize the house. This was his official warning, but ADF brushed it off and figured that it wasn't worth their time. This bothered Tony, so 2 weeks later he would send Reckless Tigers members to the ADF house. September 15th, 2012. This time the Reckless Tigers members arrived to the residence with a bin full of baseballs. They chuck them into the home's windows and shatter everything. Still,
bruh, that's what I'm. Bro, you can't say the DMV, bro. That shit happens in Virginia. Ain't nobody throwing motherfucking rocks or baseballs at a window. Niggas tossing anything niggas is tossing, you know what.
though, ADF would not respond.
And they ain't shooting at, and DC niggas ain't shooting at no houses, bruh.
Tony Lee was not the type to forget someone crossing him. However, he knew that he would have time later on. In the meantime, he wanted to stack his money, and to do this, he contacted his friends from Long Beach. He told ABZ about the Tigers and their plans to take over the DMV market. The Long Beach and Orange County members approved and wanted to be a part of this. So over the course of the summer 2012, ABZ and Reckless Tigers members built a relationship. Tony would bring his Tiger associates to Long Beach, and he would bring his
Why? Fuck these pictures old as shit. Like, fuck y'all took this on a motherfucking Polaroid.
ABZ associates to Virginia. The relationship got so strong that ABZ gave Tony access to their farm in Hayfork, California. And I'm not talking about horses and chickens.
Bruh, you went from California to Virginia. And these niggas in California gonna give up their land because you came so powerful, man. So what's the point of it? Why did you leave California then? Is what I'm really trying to say.
If you know anything about Humboldt County, then you know what I'm talking about. So as a result, Tigers members would drive back and forth from Northern California back to Virginia.
Who the fuck is doing that? Didn't I just tell you that's like a 4-day drive? Who the fuck is?
As a result, Tigers members would drive back.
Bruh. Bruh. Who doing this, bruh? Maybe on some fun shit. Alright, cool. Who doing this on some... Bruh, who doing this, bruh? Maybe on some... Alright, bruh, I want to do some fun shit. Let's go ahead and drive. Let's do like a cross-country jump. Who doing this, though? On the average. Y'all see, bruh, look what you driving through, bro. Then they giving y'all ways, bruh. Y'all can go through cities. You got motherfucking Chicago, Ohio, Pennsylvania. Man, who doing this, bruh? Who doing this? Go smack through Indiana. Man, who going Missouri, Kentucky, then West? Man, who doing this, bruh? Man, hell
and
no.
forth from Northern California back to Virginia. And once the business got rolling, Tony Lee figured that it was the perfect time to get revenge on ADF. So all the way from California, Tony alerted his Virginia members that they better
The interior of an infinity is thoughtfully designed.
make a demonstration to gain respect. September 17th, 2013. It's a chilly end-of-summer night in Centerville, Virginia. On this night, a group of ADF members are hanging out at a pool hall. Somehow, Joseph Lamborn and two associates...
You know where the fuck Centerville, Virginia is, bruh?
get word of this. So at 8 p.m. they get in their car and head out to Centerville. Joseph storms into the pool hall with a metal bat and pounces on one of the ADF members. The ADF man was injured, but thankfully he would end up being okay. Still though, ADF nor TRG would respond to the Reckless Tigers. So this is when the leaders knew that it was time to start recruiting members. So for 2013 and 2014, they spent a lot of time adding members to the roster. One of the men they selected was Sasha Carlisle, who they chose to drive back and forth from California. Another was Young Yu, a man who was given the same role along with being an enforcer. Then they recruited a former ADF member named Cinco. Cinco actually turned his back on ADF after they backdoored his uncle. Then next would be a younger relative of Tony Lee. This would be a young man named Peter Lee, also known as Savage. And just like his nickname would suggest, Peter Lee was not somebody you wanted to mess with. He was fierce and never scared to take things way too far. Despite being new to the Reckless Tigers, Peter was eager to put in work. March 17th, 2015. It's a Tuesday evening in the small city of Lorton, Virginia. Here, a couple of ADF members are at a restaurant eating dinner. Somehow, Peter Lee gets word of their location and drives instantly from his Dunloring apartment. He double parks in front of the restaurant and storms in with his metal bat. He looks around until he spots the members, and that's when he sprints their way with the metal bat. After jumping on top of them, the staff pull him away. While being pulled away from the restaurant, he screams "Reckless Tigers." This was a bold move and exactly the opposite of what the leaders wanted. By this time, they were making so much money that having their name out there was probably not a good idea. Regardless, this is just how Peter Lee was when his emotions were running high. And as you would expect, his wild ways would continue into the next year. By 2016, Peter was no longer just an enforcer. He had worked his way into the money side as well, as he was chosen to make his own deals. And that takes us to January 8th, 2016. On this day, Peter is set to meet a new client in Springfield, Virginia. So at 10 p.m. he drives out to the location they set. The two men meet up at 10:30 to go through with their deal. But for whatever reason, Peter Lee's brain keeps telling him it's a setup. So he walks to his trunk, pulls out his metal bat, and yep, you know the rest. Thankfully, the man was okay, but this was too far even for the Reckless Tigers. These kinds of acts could seriously get in the way of their million-dollar operation. But sadly, this would not be the worst of 2016. Over the first few months of 2016, ABZ and the Tigers plan to throw a major house party to celebrate their success. So Young Yu books a large Airbnb in the city of Herndon, Virginia for the night of April 23rd. During the days before the party, a bunch of Long Beach ABZ members fly across the country. The main reason for the gathering is to celebrate that the Reckless Tigers are now a part of ABZ, known as the Tigerside CRIPS. Well, everyone is excited for the party, and now all they need is ladies to fill it up. So to do this, they pass out flyers at George Mason University, the nearest college to the party. So as word gets around, the Tigers party quickly becomes the place that everyone is going on Saturday night. So the night comes around, April 23rd, 2016. Dozens of Tigers and ABZ members are in the party having drinks and a great time. At 11 p.m., groups of college students begin rolling in, having no idea what they're getting themselves into. By midnight, the party is packed with George Mason students, and for whatever reason, arguments start. Particularly an engineering senior named Ho-Sung Lee is being pressed by the Tigers members, and sadly, 15 members would pounce on him in front of his friends. Unfortunately, the members would take it too far and Steven wouldn't make it.
College kid, you know why they probably pressed him? On some gang shit. Not knowing that, like, who the fuck is that? And Shawty like, bruh, I'm a college kid, bruh. Like, What the fuck? Y'all some gay shit, bro. Like, I'm not chatting. I ain't got nothing to do with y'all got going on. Like,
For whatever reason, his friends would pick him up, put him in their car, and drive him to his parents' house. There, somehow they would get in and place him in his bed. All of this would be blurry and confusing until years later when police would figure it out. In the meantime, this would be one of the strangest stories in Virginia history, with so many questions to be asked. First of all, how did engineering students end up at this kind of party? Secondly, how does an argument start between Reckless Tiger's members and a college student? And lastly, how did he end up in his bed, and why did no one call 911 at the party? The night was wrong on so many levels and truly devastating to the Fairfax community. The members got away with this, but they knew that they needed to move differently. So for the Tigers, everything was calm in the summer of 2016, and they wanted to remain that way. But then in the fall, Tony would receive shocking news from back in Virginia. In late October, Tony would receive a call from a fellow member that he saw his girlfriend having an affair with another man. Tony Lee was definitely pissed, and he wanted to send a message to the man. So over the next few days, the members in Virginia had to find out who the man was, and they had to make a demonstration. After finding his address, the Tiger members are set to send their message. November 1st, 2016. It's a random Tuesday at 2 p.m. and the Tigers members pull up to the man's house. And with bottles, gasoline, and lighters, they throw their concoction into the windows. The house is set to flames, but thankfully no one is there. For whatever reason, after this moment, the Reckless Tigers fell in love with this process. Tony Lee now wanted to use this strategy against all of his enemies, and the first person on his list was the ADF member who finessed him back in 2012. December 1st, 2016, Peter Lee gets a call from Tony directing him to the good old Victoria Road. He directs him to look for an Acura TLX parked on the street. So at 11 p.m., Peter drives out to Victoria Road and finds the car in a driveway. Just like that, the car is toast. Tony was feeling untouchable as he was back in California telling his Virginia members to do whatever he wanted. At this point, he was just having fun with it, and that takes us to February 10th, 2017. Tony Lee spontaneously calls Peter and tells him to make another visit to Victoria Road. So like always, Peter instantly heads over and vandalizes the ADF home. Okay, this was enough. ADF and TRG began getting annoyed and it was time to prove a point. We still run this town, and that takes us to April 16th, 2017. Tony Lee flies to Virginia for the weekend and suggests that all of the Tigers get together and go out to the club. So at 9 p.m., Tony, Peter, Sang, Joseph, and Young Yu all get together. After hanging out for an hour, the members head out to the ARA nightclub in Annandale. They all get drinks, throw money, and are having the time of their lives. Well, little do they know the rivals have been following them since Tony got home. So at 1 a.m., the rival members storm in the club looking for the Tigers. They spot them in a private section in the corner and they sprint over with their fist balled up. The DJ stops the music and turns the lights on as the two crews are in a full brawl. Then an unidentified ADF member takes things to the next level. Everyone sprints out of the door and speeds away. Thankfully, no one was hurt.
50 Cent is hitting the road. The Final Lap Tour 2023. Celebrating Get Rich or Die Trying.
But this was a close call for the Reckless Tigers. The beef was on and the Reckless Tigers were destined to get back at their bitter rivals. So the next day, the Tigers would go looking for them all around Fairfax County. They knew that they could find them at a club, it was just a matter of which one. After an hour of searching, the Tigers would find the ADF members at an infamous club called The Block. So at 12:45 a.m., Tony, Peter, and Sang run in the club. They bust through the door with vengeance on their mind, and that's where they see the rivals. And without hesitation, bam! Thankfully, the Reckless Tigers pulled a Game 6 Klay Thompson and everyone was okay. After this risky incident, Tony Lee returned to California and directed Peter to focus on business. So over the course of the next year, Peter would focus on stacking money. It got to the point where he decided to stash over $100,000 in bank accounts. Because transactions of $10,000 or more will be reported to the IRS, he decided to open 12 different Wells Fargo bank accounts. And during the month of January 2018, he deposited $9,999 in each account. According according to the law, this doesn't warrant an investigation, but after a while, the banks will raise their eyebrows. But in the meantime, Peter Lee wasn't stressing it as he was stacking up $4,000 a day. With this money, he was able to get himself a big nice apartment in the wealthy Dunloring, Virginia. This became the Reckless Tigers Distribution Center and also where they stashed their money. After all these years of recklessness, the Tigers still face no investigations. But then,
y'all see how crazy that shit is, bruh? Bruh. It's just crazy, bruh. Like, I don't know, just as a black man, like, bruh, that couldn't have been us, bruh. Like, we would have got antennas raised immediately. Like, hold up, man. Fuck y'all doing here. Y'all don't belong in this area. Woo, woo. So they can just fly past and just, like, shit just be Gucci. Like, that shit is crazy.
Peter Lee would make the mistake of a lifetime. June 18th, 2018. It's a typical day in the life of Peter Lee as he gets ready to meet with a new client in Annandale, Virginia. So Peter Lee heads to the man's house to complete the transaction. They talk for 15 minutes and end up going through with the deal. Well, little does Peter know the man is a federal informant wearing a wire. Investigators easily could have arrested Peter right away and sent him to jail, but instead they decided to play the long game and see how much information they could get. So from this moment on, the FBI was tracking Peter Lee's every move. And while he was doing business with an informant, his fellow member Young Yu was doing business with a snake. This would be a man named Brandon White from Falls Church, Virginia. In June of 2018, Young Yu met with Brandon White to complete an $8,000 transaction. During the deal, Brandon told him that he didn't currently have the cash, but that he would pay him back in the coming weeks. Usually, Tigers members were advised not to do this, but for whatever reason, Young Yu decided to accept it. Well, 1, 2, 3, and 4 weeks go by after the deal and Young Yu gets no word from Brandon White. So he calls him up and asks him what's the deal and where's my money. Brandon tells him to be patient and that it's on its way. But then another month goes by and no word from Brandon. So finally, Young Yu has had enough and comes up with a plan. He tells a brand new member named David Nguyen to DM Brandon White and to set up a deal. And from here, this is where the young member is told to send a message. August 8th, 2018. Brandon invites David Nguyen to meet him at his house on Rosemore Lane. So David pulls up with a metal bat tucked under his jacket. He walks in the house, shakes his hand, and they both sit down. Brandon has no idea that David Nguyen is a part of the Reckless Tigers, so his guard is down. After a few minutes of sitting down and discussing business, David Nguyen waits for the perfect time to pounce. As soon as Brandon looks away and gets distracted, David Nguyen pulls out the bat and jumps on top. David then runs out of the house, hops in his car, and speeds away. Brandon was injured very badly, to the point where he called 911 and was rushed to the hospital. Now listen to this. His bill came out to $76,000, and this is when he knew that he was not going to keep it in the streets. So he decided to cooperate and give up David Nguyen. Of course, at this point, Brandon White knew that the Reckless Tigers were behind this, and this right here made Peter Lee nervous that Brandon White could testify against them in court. He now made it his mission for police to never find out what the Reckless Tigers are. Little did he know he was already being investigated, and what he would do next would only make things worse. August 16th, 2018. Peter Lee drives to Rosemore Lane with a lighter, gas, and a bottle just like old times. He arrives to Brandon's house and tosses his concoction into the window. Thankfully, Brandon is alert and is able to put it out quickly. But regardless, this was a scary situation and the Reckless Tigers members expected him to now work with them. But Brandon would stand tall and still vow to testify on David Nguyen. This right here made the Tigers members nervous, so they decided to offer him an alternative route. Instead of threatening him, they decided to cancel his $8,000 debt and offer him $5,000 cash. Considering that his hospital bill was $76,000, Brandon was not going to accept this offer. So the members would come back and offer him $10,000 cash and to pay $8,000 towards his bill. This time, Brandon would leave them on red, giving them the indication that he's 100% going to testify. So the Reckless Tigers would go back to square one. The intimidation route. It's November 6, 2018, 12 days before the court date. A Tigers member messages Brandon and tells him that if my boy is convicted, I'll take a visit to your granny's house. It's either your family's safety or a free $18,000 in your pocket. Brandon White boldly leaves him on red, so 4 days later, 2 Tigers members pay a visit to his grandma's house, November 10th, 2018. The Tigers members arrive to his grandma's house with metal bats. They bang on the door expecting someone to open up, but instead his grandma dials 911 expecting them to come quickly. The police would be slow to come, but thankfully the Tigers members would give up on this mission after just 5 minutes. Was this enough to stop Brandon White from testifying? What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. November 19th, 2018. It's the big day at the Fairfax County Courthouse and everyone is there. David Nguyen, his family, and all of the Tigers members are nervous about what could happen. At 12:15 p.m., it's time for
this nigga showed up. I know he did.
Brandon White to take the stand. He decides to tell the courts everything that happened and everything he knows about the reckless Tigers. As a result, David Nguyen was sentenced to prison. All of the reckless Tigers members are pissed and many of them take to social media to expose Brandon White. This was a dumb decision because the feds were already
looking at this shit, bro. They already on y'all Instagram, bro. Y'all already made y'all shit hot, so they already looking at y'all. That's what I say, bro. Niggas is not thinkers, bro.
all over their social media.
Before Year Up, I didn't know how I'd provide for my family.
The weekly stipend kept me on track.
Well, because Peter Lee was the top dog in Virginia, he decided to take revenge into his own hands. So during the next few months, he spent a lot of time coming up with an intricate plan. And here's what he came up with. First, he contacted 3 men who owed him money and offered to cancel their debt if they did some work for him. Then he told the men to befriend Brandon White and to set up a deal with him on a particular date. Then during the meeting, Reckless Tigers members would come out of nowhere and snatch up Brandon White. They would put him in the back of their car and drive him to a remote forest in Richmond, Virginia. This was a crazy plan, but Peter Lee was destined to make it work. So on January 29, 2019, the plan was finally complete. The 3 men set up a meeting with Brandon White on January 31st at 10 p.m. January 31st, 2019, 6 p.m. The 3 men are preparing to meet with Brandon White. In the meantime, Joseph, Sasha, and Young Yu are on their way to Peter's Dunloring apartment. When they arrive, Peter gives them a final rundown of all the steps. At 10:46 p.m., the 3 men arrive at Brandon White's house in a Mercedes C300. They pick up Brandon and tell him that they're taking him to the apartment where the deal will be made. Brandon has no idea that he's on his way to Peter Lee. However, while driving through Falls Church, the Mercedes breaks down. So the men get out of the car and with Brandon's help, they push the car to the nearest gas station. The plan is already off to a terrible start, but Peter is destined to get it done. So after the members inform him of the situation, he responds, "No worries, we're on our way." So at 11:24 p.m., the members hop in a blue Subaru and a white Honda CRV and head on their way. At 11:41 p.m., they arrive at the gas station and pull in right next to the Mercedes. And that's when the 3 men signal that Brandon White is inside the gas station. At 11:44 p.m., he exits the gas station and that's when the Tigers members hop out of their car. From there, they force him into the backseat of the Subaru and speed down I-95. They keep going all the way to the city of Richmond, Virginia. Once they arrive, they pull up to the entrance of a forest. They park and direct Brandon out of the car. They then direct him into the forest, hoping to reach the James River. But after 10 minutes of walking, the members get impatient, and that's when Joseph Lamborn makes his decision. The members then remove their jackets, gloves, and of course their tools. They throw it all into a garbage bag and bury it under the bushes. At 1:30 a.m., the members walk back to the car and have a quiet ride home to Northern Virginia. Each member is dropped off to their home, and here is where things get weird. None of the members speak to each other for 18 days. Instead, they sat back and pondered the crazy thing that they had just done.
Because these niggas is not killers, bruh. That's why. It's not mandatory to be a killer, bruh. Like, it's not shit that humans are designed to do. You're not designed to take lives and just be functional afterwards. So them niggas didn't talk for 18 days. You know the shit that's going on through your head. You know all the thoughts that's pondering. Like, you like, what if these niggas snitch on me? What the fuck? Like, I ain't even want to kill a nigga. Man, woo woo, man. And it's just like so many thoughts going processing through your mind that you like, bruh, hold up, bruh.
It definitely hit Joseph Lamborn the hardest as he took a Greyhound bus to Dallas, Texas. The other members went home and kind of just stayed to themselves. And after weeks of thinking, Peter Lee began getting paranoid. So he called up his fellow members and told them that he didn't think they did a good enough job covering up their tracks. The members all agreed and decided to meet up in Richmond, Virginia on February 24th. So Joseph Lamborn takes a Greyhound all the way from Dallas and all of the members drive down from Fairfax. They then meet up.
Bruh, what the fuck? Bruh, you know how long that ride from... Oh my God, bruh. That ride probably was like 3 days, bro. Texas to Virginia, bro, that's only probably like 3 days. Bro.
In the woods and try to carry everything down to the river. But after 30 minutes of looking for the James River, they simply give up and walk back to the car. After this moment, the reckless tigers truly went their separate ways. Firstly, young Yu moved to Hayfork, California to oversee the farm. Secondly, Joseph Lamborn went back to Dallas. And lastly, Tony Lee remains permanently in Southern California, and Peter Lee was the last person to remain in Virginia. The members were riding it out into the sunset, figuring that they had gotten away with all of the crazy things they did. But this would not last long. By the summer of 2019, the FBI had completed their investigations. July 24th, 2019. Major raids take place all over the country, from Hayfork to Long Beach, Orange County, and of course Fairfax, Virginia. This included Peter Lee, Tony Lee, Sasha Carlisle, Young Yu, and Richard Pack. Oh yeah, and of course Joseph Lamborn, who was the main focus of the case. During the case, the prosecutors went hard, aiming for life sentences for everyone involved. That would be unless members were willing to give up information. Every member was offered to have their sentence cut if they were willing to testify on their fellow members. So let me run down the list. Joseph Lamborn decided to stay solid despite facing the most amount of time. Peter Lee stayed solid despite facing more than a life sentence. Tony Lee also stayed solid despite facing over 20 years. After them, Young Yu and Sasha Carlisle both stayed solid as well. With all of these members staying solid, they actually had a good chance of beating many of the RICO charges.
Okay.
But then they offered a deal to the Reckless Tigers founder, Richard Pack. Richard couldn't take the heat and ended up becoming a federal informant. During the case, Richard gave the feds every single detail they needed to lock up all of the members. So if you're wondering why his name wasn't in any of the story, this is why. Once he became a federal informant, everything he did became concealed. Still though, after all this telling, Richard Pack received 16 years in federal prison. After him, Peter...
You did all that snitching and you get 16 years? Now you got that motherfucking jacket. You gotta walk PC.
Lee was sentenced to 30 years.
30?
Then Tony Lee got 25, Young Yu got 20, and Sasha Car...
So wait. You did all that snitching and then y'all basically all got the same time? Oh man, they gonna terrorize you every day.
Carlisle got 16. And lastly, Joseph Lamborn, also known as Trigga, received 6 consecutive life sentences. Wow, this was a crazy story and definitely unexpected out of such a good place. Like, who in the world would expect such a wild organization to come from Fairfax, Virginia? And let this be a reminder that this kind of lifestyle leads to nothing but destruction and pain at the end of the day.
That's crazy, bruh. That's crazy. Niggas did all that just to...
There was absolutely nothing positive that came out of the Reckless Tigers.
I was just about to
and
say
if
that.
the men could go back, I'm sure they would have done things differently.
Say that too.
Well, that's gonna do it for this episode of Swamp Stories. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe. You can also hit me up on Instagram and...
Alright, bro. Hey, that shit crazy, bro. Niggas did all that just to throw their life away. Niggas had all this money, ran up stacks of money, just to throw their life away on some gang shit. See y'all niggas in the next video though.